Hi all, Agent Redacted here, aka David. Well, I've got to admit, my start to this channel has not gone exactly as planned. As always, real life and family must take priority. So think of this as an update, a kind of episode 1.5. At the time of recording this, I am in the small town of Akaroa on New Zealand's South Island, and I've got to say it's an absolutely amazing place. It was originally settled by the French, who had their eyes on New Zealand for decades, but they waited too long to make their claim, and they were beaten to it by the British. Now, luckily for them, the British were kind enough to allow a small French colony to settle here, and now that I'm here, I can certainly see why they chose this spot. As I was walking through the town just now, I came across a beautiful memorial to this town's war heroes, the men who made the ultimate sacrifice in World War I and World War II for the very freedom we're meant to be enjoying today. But as I look at their names, I couldn't help but think about the current state of the world. And I wonder what they would make of the world as it is today, with all the crackdowns occurring on freedom of speech, with people being arrested for tweets, the borders they fought for to protect are now fully open. There's political assassinations, there's digital ID and other tracking systems being introduced. And no matter where you stand on all of this, you have to admit there's a feeling that something is not quite right about the world we live in today. It made me realise that we're in a new global war. I think it's time we all realise that. I'm not talking about the kinetic wars with bombs and bullets that we see on the news, which undoubtedly seem to be escalating. What I'm talking about is a different type of war that's going on right now, and it's a war for our minds. Some might even call it a war for our souls. The British coveted New Zealand, and looking around this beautiful harbour, I don't blame them. And there exists another type of larger organisation that covets not just this amazing country, but the entire world. And it aims to achieve this through a doctrine that I call engineered eschatology. Okay, let's go for a drive. This is going to take some explaining. Think about this. So many of us are glued to the news, watching it like a soap opera. And that's exactly what it is. An orchestrated soap opera. The mainstream news isn't reality. It's an edited version of reality. It's like we're all sitting in a cinema watching a movie that's loosely based on true events, while the real events are happening just outside the cinema doors. We're being manipulated to believe it's all about left versus right, Russia versus NATO, Israel versus Iran. But that is just a distraction. It's a script written by a third party that stands in the shadows, but they rarely speak or enter the public eye. These are the ones that fund both sides of war. This is a deep, well-funded power that has corrupted the governments of most nations. It has two tiers, an ideological tier and a theological tier. The lower ideological tier the public-facing figures, the politicians, the talking heads and their global corporate lobbyists. Most are probably unaware of the reality of the tier above them, the theological tier that is the true power, pulling the strings, and far removed from the front lines of politics and social unrest and war. This is an ancient power. It's a relic that has resurfaced over recent decades and spread silently like a cancer into the halls of government, finance, religion and media. A hidden hand that wants us to see the world as political, as Jew versus Muslim, as East versus West, and so on, so it can tilt global events towards its end goals, completely unseen. And for those of you who struggle to find the time to keep track, and who are doubting my whole premise, let's take a look at this compilation.
The Rebbe was an international rock star of a rabbi with influence leading to the White House, and he became a spiritual advisor to Benjamin Netanyahu.
In 1984, when I was appointed Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, I visited the great rabbi of Lubavitch. But here's what the Rebbe said to me: "You'll be serving in a house of many lies."
The Rebbe taught that the Jews could hasten the day of the Messiah, the Mashiach, the Anointed One, through obedience to God's will. It was also the Rebbe who told Netanyahu that God had an important role for him. It was widely reported that in a private meeting, whilst Netanyahu was still unknown, the Rebbe told him that he would be Israel's last prime minister who will pass the scepter to the Messiah.
And today, Jennifer and I and others had a chance to go see the western wall of the Temple Mount, the western wall tunnels, so much of the old city. And as you stand there, you can't help but behold the miracle before you. And it got me thinking about another miracle that I hope all of you don't see too far away. Because 1917 was a miracle, 1948 was a miracle, 1967 was a miracle, 2017, the declaration of Jerusalem as the capital was a miracle, and there's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible.
All see the building of the third temple in Jerusalem, and we honor our President Trump for what he has done for Jerusalem and for the Jewish people.
Mr. Trump could promise to use his building skills to build a temple.
Yes, he, I believe, is the Mashiach of Edom. See? And that's why I believe that the gematria of Donald Trump is Gematria Mashiach ben David.
And I have good reason to believe Donald Trump was chosen to be the one to redeem the sins of Esav through offering his assistance in rebuilding the Holy Temple on the Temple Mount and establishing the Jewish kingdom over all of mankind in Jerusalem.
Is Gematria Mashiach ben David? You know what that means? He, I believe, is the Mashiach of Edom. But Mashiach is nothing more than an anointed one, right? That completely reverses the order of something.
Perhaps it is no accident that the numeric value of Donald Trump in Hebrew is the same as Messiah, son of David, Mashiach ben David.
That starts going up, the curtains open, there's the red heifer. Wow, they're alive and well again in Israel, and they're beautiful. All the time I get emails, I get phone calls, I get letters from people. The red heifer, the red heifer, the red heifer. Well, I am in Israel, in Shiloh. There are the red heifers. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the back, 5.
2-3 years ago, Israel imported 5 red heifers from Texas. These 5 red heifers were genetically modified to be perfect. And the reason why is the Bible says that you need to sacrifice a red heifer in order to consecrate the ground for the building of the temple.
If we're going to the next slide, what we see here are the red heifers. Let's go back one. Are the red heifers necessary for the Messiah to come? Well, let me ask you something. When Israel was scattered for 2,000 years in the land, was it necessary that Israel, Judah, the tribe of Judah, the lion, would return to the land? Was that necessary? Is it necessary that on the temple mountain of God, that there be a temple that we worship him there, as it says in Micah 4? Is that necessary that we build the land? So the first step on the red heifers is that we are going to move towards building that temple.
They want to build the third temple. This is problematic because they want to build it on top of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the third holiest site in the Islamic world.
There's a prophecy recently commemorated and by Metropolitan Theophilus, which says that one day, this was uttered years ago, 20 years ago, by an ascetic in Crete, Theodore, an ascetic in Crete. He says, one day you'll be sipping coffee, you will hear the news that the Israelis have hit the nuclear program of Persia. That will be when the major worldwide events will start.
Τέλος στον παγκόσμιο πόλεμο, ο οποίος ξεκίνησε, όπως είπαμε, από τη Συρία, Ουκρανία, Ισραήλ, αλλά μετά την Περσία, όταν χτυπήσουν το πυρηνικό πρόγραμμα της Περσίας οι Εβραίοι, τόσο η Κίνα όσο και η Ρωσία θα υποχρεωθούν να αντιδράσουν. Οι προφητείες λένε των Αγίων, και πρόσεξε, όχι μόνο των Ελλήνων Αγίων, και των Ρώσων και των Ρουμάνων και των Σέρβων, ότι θα ρίξουν πυρηνικά. Και το εκπληκτικό, ξέρετε τι είναι? Ο Πούτιν και η Κίνα δεν το θέλουν αυτό. Το θέλει πάρα πολύ η νέα τάξη πραγμάτων. Τους εξωθούν. Αυτή είναι η λέξη η ελληνική. Τους πιέζουν.
This is more the result of manipulation over decades, the conjunction of hundreds of strategic moves made to fit supposed prophecy. And as with most conspiracies, this can be resolved by simply following the money. What is happening right now is a deliberate attempt to use the biblical book of Revelation as a script to bring about a global totalitarian rule. Those behind it have created a system of infinite wealth, and to them, we are their cattle, a resource. But soon, with the merger of AI and robotics, they'll start to see us as a burden, a population to be managed and drastically reduced. I'm not saying this to be a fearmonger. I'm saying it because we should never run from the truth. This is a war over truth and information, and to win it, we have to face the ugly reality head on. What is important to understand is that this is all a fake, a self-fulfilling prophecy. People in the world's greatest religions are seeing the signs laid out, and they think it's God's work. Some will decide this must come to pass, and either let it happen, or even worse, cheer it on, believing that their Messiah is just around the corner. They don't realise that this is all being enacted by greedy, delusional people who believe they belong to a superior race, an ancient bloodline, and with ties to supposed NHI, that some call the others. We've heard this story before, and that Reich did not end well for anyone. But here's the good news. Things for them have obviously not gone to plan. Too many twists and too many turns and too many dead ends. They are working to a deadline for reasons I can only speculate on, and they have fallen behind. Now they're rushed and they're pressured. They are being forced to accelerate their plans, and in their haste, they are going to overplay their hand and reveal themselves. They have played us for fools, expecting us to march off a cliff like lemmings for the promise of peace and safety. But a critical mass of people are waking up. We're starting to realise that the people dangling the carrot of peace and safety are the same ones who created the crisis in the first place. And this is their signature move, their modus operandi: order through chaos. Create the problem, stoke the fear, and then offer the pre-planned solution. The solution, of course, is always more control, more surveillance, less freedom. We saw the playbook during a certain recent global virus event. The critical thinkers who questioned the narrative were punished. This is the pattern, but they cannot win if enough of us see through the charade. It's not left versus right, that's just the puppet show. Both sides are captured, both are manipulated to forward the same agenda, to bring us closer to their desired end times scenario, so that Big Brother can swoop in, playing the role of Messiah, a person, a group, or an AI machine god, and save us with totalitarian control. We are now starting to see not just the strings on the puppets, but the frantic hands of the puppeteers. These are the hands that want to track us with digital ID, the hands that want to punish dissent, the hands that keep us sick with processed food and chemicals, hooked on pills, taxed into poverty, and trapped in a state of constant fear and confusion, all while we fight among ourselves, blaming each other for the problems. And that is by design.
So the next, plan B, it seems to me, is to divide populations and turn them ones against the others, which probably is part of the reason why we have all this uncontrolled immigration, again, largely of fighting age males, and they are becoming the object at which they wish to direct everybody else's grievance. And so I think that what they're hoping for is for Christians to turn against Muslims, for local populations to turn against the immigrants, and vice versa, left against right, black against white, whatever, whatever can deflect people's actual, real, justified grievances and orchestrate a bloodletting in this way. And then they can, crack down, they can take away our freedoms because, gosh, we can't have civil wars and people just slaughtering each other wholesale. And that way, they get to solidify their hold on power, cancel democracy, cancel human rights, and introduce some kind of a North Korea style dictatorship. They say you put 100 red ants and 100 black ants into a jar, nothing happens. But then if you violently shake up the jar, the ants start killing one another because they are suddenly alarmed. Something's gone badly wrong. The adrenaline starts rushing, and then they see the other, and the immediate conclusion is, is their fault. I think we need to try to be mindful about who is holding the jar, and then maybe even reach out to the other ants and say, they are trying to do this to us. Let's not give them that gift. Let's turn against them.
When it comes to the Book of Revelations, those using it as a playbook rely much on our ignorance of history. I'm far from being the most reliable source of biblical facts, so I lean heavily on those who are, taking in lectures from those who take a purely historical and unbiased approach, and those who take a purely religious one, and then I look for overlaps. From this, I think there are a few points that anyone listening should consider. The idea that the Book of Revelation was written as a prophecy for the future was extremely uncommon, and it was considered to have been written in the context of the events of its time. It was not until the French Revolution that the concept of revelations being prophecy of near future events was pushed into popular mainstream religious belief. Also, the identity of the author has long been debated. Was it John the Apostle? Or was it John of Patmos? Or was it some other yet unnamed figure lost to history? Further to that, most historians agree that the number 666 was derived from a form of numerology called gematria, which was highly popular at the time. And was a reference to Emperor Nero, whose name breaks down to 666. Nero was commonly referred to as a beast, or the beast, for his sadistic tendencies and cruelty, particularly towards early Christians, a characteristic that would certainly have earned him the title of Antichrist. The beast also was a term used to describe the hierarchy of Rome and even the entire Roman Empire. Others have pointed out that the entire book seems to have been a warning aimed at Christians of the time that had taken up alternate teachings. Not only this, but the book of Revelation's inclusion in the Bible came down to one man's decision that went against the majority.
In the early 4th century CE, Rome legalized Christianity and then became a Christian empire, which kind of cut the legs out from underneath the surface reading of Revelation, which treats the Roman Empire as the beast and the whore and all these other antagonists. So it would seem to be on its way out until one man saved it and put it into the canon for the first time. That would be Athanasius of Alexandria, the Bishop of Alexandria, an influential church leader in Egypt who was struggling for power with a few different factions within the church. And he would actually use the book of Revelation to condemn as the beast and the whore and all these other antagonists, not the Roman Empire, but heretical Christians within the church. And this included Arians, with whom he was constantly struggling for power and who successfully exiled him a number of times, as well as the monks and the monasteries and their leadership.
In his book Morals and Dogma, the general and Freemason Albert Pike considered the book of Revelations to be the work of pure symbolism and allegory, written to be understood only by initiates of the Kabbalah. And it's here that we get the first hints as to who it might be that is following Revelations like a script. And they have made one other fatal mistake. The book of Revelations talks of the end with the apocalypse. Perhaps they misunderstood the meaning of that word. Apocalypse does not mean the end of the world. It quite literally means the unveiling and the revealing of the truth. And the truth is coming out. We don't need a violent uprising to win this war. Violence is their tool. The real war is for the mind. Once we understand what's truly going on, and we are being forced to play a game without ever knowing the rules, we simply need to stop playing their game. The one thing they fear the most is our awareness and our lack of fear. Awareness of who they are, and awareness of the simple fact that there is no reason why 8 billion or more of us cannot live in abundance, free from debt slavery, free from disease, and free from the invisible prison they have built around us. So, who the hell are they?
They operate through central banks, they operate through non-government organizations, through private contractors. And I think that we had in his 1963-64 book, Tragedy and Hope, Carol Quigley pretty much said that the powers of financial capitalism, which is the same thing as this oligarchy that I'm talking about, their goal is to dominate the world by dominating central banks in each nation, and to use that control in order to exert dominance over the governments in every single nation.
It's because I have to tell you this, and you may think I'm nuts if you want to, but this is the truth. Either these men are following the book of Revelation, the book of Revelation as it is in the Bible. Mm-hmm. They're either following it, just like a plan, the prophecies in there to pass, to manipulate and control those who believe in those prophecies and neutralize them, so to speak. In other words, if this is written in the Bible and God has ordained it, who am I to resist? It must come to pass, so I'm not going to try to stop it. Okay. What a perfect way to neutralize the opposition right off the bat.
In coming episodes, I'll show you the evidence, I'll name the names, and I'll leave you to decide for yourself. It is extremely important to mention that I am in no way suggesting that Jews or Judaism is behind all of this. In fact, as you will see as I move forward, that it's quite the opposite. But it's unavoidable to discuss Israel, since it is at the centre stage of eschatology. While the road ahead is always uncertain, there's always a way to steer things towards a positive direction. I'm no guru, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to ask you to think, because awareness is how we walk back from seconds to midnight.